So guys, we're still stuck in 69. Now, it was only a joke. I told you yesterday that I didn't mind being stuck in 69, but man, this is getting tiring. My tongue just... I can't even hear it anymore. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm sorry for the raunchy 69 jokes, but if you want me to stop making those awful jokes, please help me get the video prepared for the CCHI to 100 likes. I know that we can do it. We've been stuck in 69 for 2 days and it shows. So come on, let's get that video to 100 likes. Remember, it's prepare for the CCHI. Link up here, link on the bottom as well. And why are we asking you to get that video to 100 likes? Because when we get that video to 100 likes, we're going to be posting the new MIP21 to YouTube. That video has already been posted on Patreon after it got 50 likes, so I know that we can do it. I know that we can get that video to 100 likes. We're almost there. We are stuck at 69. Help us help you get that video published. Let's all help each other, man. Let's get out of 69. Let's go on to a higher number. And once we post that video to YouTube, MIP21, that is not all. We're gonna let you comment, and after some time we're gonna pick 2 random comments. We're gonna send exclusive links to MIP22 to those 2 people, and we're gonna let them record their interpretations for us to send to us. That way we can give them some feedback. So I'm very excited about that. I'm pretty sure we can probably get those 200. Damn, I already increased the number. No, it's just 100 likes. It's just 100 likes. I'm pretty sure we can get those 100 likes this week, so we can get that MIP21, the long awaited video, to YouTube. So let's get to it. So well, hello and welcome to Unwind Sessions, where right after my shift I give the highlights of my workday and answer any questions that might have been asked at a previous session. My name is Juan. I am an English, Spanish, medical video remote consecutive interpreter with over 4 years of experience, and today is August 10, 2021. Today I took a total of 33 sessions. Most of them were video sessions, like always. I had a couple of audio sessions, maybe 3, 4, I don't even remember. It was a long day, but I do have some highlights today. Now, highlight number 1 is ambulance bay. So the lady was talking about the ambulance bay, that they were waiting for the patient at the ambulance bay and they had to wheel her down. So for some reason I couldn't remember the word for bay. Of course, ambulance is just the same, right, in Spanish. So I had to look it up. I had to look it up in Lingui, and then one word that came out was muelle. Now I remember muelle from working in the maintenance department, in the industrial maintenance department for a factory, and they had like their unloading bay, right? And I know that that is called a muelle, un muelle de descarga. So of course what I said was muelle de ambulancias, but for some reason that just does not sit well up here. I don't like how that sounds. I don't know if maybe it's because I've never been exposed to that, but whenever I can't find something and I'm not sure about it, my first go-to tool is Google Images, right? If it comes up in Google Images, then I know, I am certain that if it's not the right word, then I'm kind of heading into the correct place, right, to find this definition. But when you put muelle de ambulancias, now it kind of comes up, kind of doesn't. It shows you like an ambulance in the bay, like in the beach, you know, like water bay, that type of bay. So you put muelle de ambulancias, you kind of, but not really. So after giving it some thought, after researching a little bit, not that much, I think that instead of muelle de ambulancias, for ambulance bay, I will just say área reservada para las ambulancias. So if any of you guys has a much better term for ambulance bay other than área reservada para las ambulancias, please enlighten me, because I am not familiar with that, with those terms or anything, and whatever I tried looking up did not give a satisfactory answer. So please enlighten me, guys. I need your help. It would be really helpful to me if you can enlighten me with ambulance bay in Spanish. All right, and moving on with the second highlight, I completely forgot what DSS stands for. And I don't know why I didn't look it up. I looked it up after the session, but what I interpreted it as was just DSS, so I just kept it the same. I later found out that it was Department of Social Services, Departamento de Servicios Sociales, which is the same thing, DSS, and it was understood, so no problem there. But I would have liked to say Departamento de Servicios Sociales, or DSS por sus siglas en inglés, and then just DSS after that. But I didn't, so yeah, I don't know. I think I did a lousy job there. Nothing bad, nothing major, right? But still not the interpretation I would have liked. All right, and the last highlight comes from a maternal session, and the lady was talking about baby blues. And of course, if you look baby blues up in Lingui, baby blues is interpreted into Spanish or translated into Spanish as depresión postparto. And I am pretty sure that I already knew that, because whenever they kept on saying baby blues, the automatic translation in my mind said depresión postparto, and that's how I was using it the whole session, until the lady said we have to know how to differentiate between baby blues and postpartum depression. So that's when I freaked out. I was like, what do you mean differentiate between postpartum depression and baby blues? I thought they were the same thing. So of course I couldn't tell her that, and I just looked it up very quick, and I just couldn't find anything for it. Like I couldn't interpret and do some extensive research, right? Impossible. Like I can find a vocabulary word if I'm lucky, and I got the correct spelling at the first time. If not, then move on, right? So now, at this point, baby blues, I'm thinking tristeza, no? Or something similar along those lines. So what I told her is periodo de tristeza después del parto y depresión postparto. Now, I don't know if that is correct. I did do a little bit of digging right now. I probably took about 10 minutes to do some digging, and it turns out that there is a big difference between baby blues and postpartum depression, and some suggestions that were suggested there as well. So baby blues refers to like that moment that after childbirth, it can present itself from the first 3 to 5 days, and it lasts a period no longer than 2 weeks. Of course, it can last a little bit longer, but it shouldn't last more than 2 weeks, and that's because the woman's hormones are already going back to their pre-pregnancy levels, right? So of course everything is changing, and there's a lot of physiological changes that are going on in the woman's body. So it is natural for some women, and this is very common, for them to feel a little sad, right? Baby blues. All right, so I would probably say periodo de tristeza transitoria, or like it was suggested in the article, depresión postparto transitoria. That's very important, transitoria, because it means it's in transition and it'll pass, right? It's not there to stay, it'll pass. And all right, so what is postpartum depression? Postpartum depression comes after that 2-week period after birth. If those symptoms of sadness, anxiety, or whatever, they linger on further than that, after 2 weeks, the woman is still feeling that, she has postpartum depression. All right. So that is the difference. And postpartum depression doesn't necessarily need to begin after those 2 weeks. It still has a year. Like after those 2 weeks, it could happen after those 2 weeks to a year to manifest, and it will still count as postpartum depression. So the suggestions from the research were that baby blues can be depresión postparto transitoria and postpartum depression, depresión postparto or depresión postparto crónica. Chronic means it's there to stay, but I mean, of course, I think that the chronic is not really needed. Of course, I am not an authority on the subject. If you have more experience on it, please enlighten me. I will be forever grateful. But yeah, I think if you just say depresión postparto and depresión postparto transitoria, you'll be alright in differentiating them. And if the patient needs more information about the difference, then I'm pretty sure they'll ask, what's the difference between the depresión postparto and depresión postparto transitoria, right? So that way you did your job, you differentiated one, and if they have questions, they'll be able to ask them, right? So I'm pretty sure that will work. I'll just have to see. Of course, every new method or theory that I drop on you guys, I always test in the field, and I keep on testing them until I get better answers, or I will just let you know that that seems to be the best answer, right? Seems to be like we're in that little gray area where like the language doesn't match, right? There's a perfect word for this, and there's two perfect words to describe this issue. They're different issues, but those two different issues are described with just one word in Spanish, right? Like seizures, convulsiones, and which is convulsiones, but they are used interchangeably, and I would have to do another session about those. I probably should do sessions about that gray area and how to handle those. So I think that's gonna be some material for the future. So if any of you guys have help for me in baby blues and ambulance bay, I'll be forever grateful. So moving on to why you are here, my top 8 blunders from consecutive interpreting, like Juan Pablo Hincapié Salcedo requested. So that was a very good idea, awesome topic. I'm sorry you requested 10, and I was just using too much brain power to actually go ahead and think up of 10. And those 8, like the first 3, 4 were easy. Of course, I have them on the top of my head. I'm never gonna forget those. But the rest, man, I was struggling. You had me going down memory lane to the first days of interpretation, and I did find some of them. I do have records of some of them on some Facebook groups where I shared them. I don't share stuff in Facebook groups anymore. I had some bad experiences with that, so I no longer do that anymore. But I did have that history, and I was able to get some of them. But those are hard. I mean, honestly, the way that I see the blunders is that if they are pretty big and significant, of course I'll remember them. But if they're like everyday things, just like saying a word, a different word for something, I mean, they just slip off, and I just forget about them. There's no use for me to hold that information in my brain, right? Of course, they just like linger on here for a little bit, and then since I have no hair, they just slip off my mind. So okay, so sorry that it wasn't 10. I'm sure that I have plenty of more than 10, but I just couldn't think up of them. All right, so let's get started. All right, this is my top 8 interpretation blunders. All right, so number 1. All right, so interpretation blunder number 1 was I had to interpret, all right, I'm gonna ask you some questions. And what did I interpret it? Why did I interpret, I'm sorry? I said, le voy a preguntar unas preguntas. So I was like, man, I can't believe that came out of my mouth, you know? Like, if you don't speak Spanish, saying le voy a preguntar unas preguntas is like saying, I'm gonna ask some askings, or I'm gonna question you some questions. All right, so it's not correct in Spanish. The correct translation should be, le voy a hacer unas preguntas. I don't know why that happened. It just slipped out like that. My mouth was working faster than my mind. So yeah, definitely that was a very bad blunder. I was very embarrassed, but I mean, it happened and I was just able to get on with the session. All right, and for blunder number 2. All right, so I was at a session, and then the gentleman said that he had a problem with his, dijo, tengo un problema con mis dedos. So of course, I went ahead and I said, I have a problem with my fingers. All right, and the doctor looked at me and he said, fingers? I thought you said toes. And then, so of course, I looked at the gentleman and I told him, dedos. Yo pensé que me había dicho dedos de los pies. And the gentleman answered, yeah, sí, dedos, los dedos de los pies, es a lo que me refiero. So I mean, of course, there is, it was not all my fault, you know, but I still find it a blunder, because I mean, I could have clarified. I don't know if I should have clarified or not, but yeah, so in Spanish, you say dedos and dedos de los pies. So these are dedos de las manos, fingers of the hands, and you say fingers of the feet as well. That would be like a literal translation. So for the toes, so I messed up on that one. Maybe not that bad, right? But I still felt like it was my mistake. Maybe I could have done something to prevent that. I don't know. But it happened. All right. Number 3, and I have mentioned this one before, but I'm gonna mention what happened. So there is a term in Spanish for like an eye web, which is not a correct term. It's called pterygium. For a pterygium, now people say carnosidad. Now the first time that I ever encountered this, of course I didn't know the word pterygium existed. So whenever a patient would say carnosidad, I would say fleshiness or corpulence, you know? And of course the providers never understood what I was trying to say, but I thought, I was like, well, okay, well, I mean, of course they're not understanding me, because the people are not using correct terms, right? And if you actually look up carnosidad, you are going to find an article where it describes the pterygium, right? But if you actually try to look for carnosidad as, it's because I can't remember what I looked for it, but I looked for it the other day. But if you put carnosidad, you're going to find a lot of information about it being a pterygium, but it doesn't really tell you that it, or it does, I don't know, I don't remember, but in my case, it was hard to find and I couldn't do it. So I have fleshiness or corpulence. So I probably had about 4 or 5 ophthalmology sessions before a doctor said, oh, you mean a pterygium? So as soon as the doctor said pterygium, I looked it up. And of course, that was a word that was missing from my vocabulary. So thank you, doctor. You really enlightened me and you made my interpretation much better. So every time they say carnosidad, I know it's a pterygium. I just say pterygium and the doctor understands perfectly and everyone is happy. All right, so moving on to blunder number 4. All right, and this only happened a couple of times. Of course, when they say physician's assistant, whenever you have never been experienced in this field, the logical translation for that, the literal translation would be asistente médico or asistente del doctor, right? So I went ahead and I said it once, and of course the lady didn't say anything, so I thought it was correct. And then the second time I had another session and I went ahead and I said asistente del doctor, and then the gentleman just looked at me and then he said, I'm not a doctor's assistant. And then I was lost. Like, honestly, I didn't know. I was like, what do you mean you're not a doctor's assistant? Like, it's literally in your title, man. PA, physician's assistant. So I panicked and I had to look it up. And of course, it's not an asistente del doctor. It's an asociado médico. So I think I read an article like a couple months ago, or more than a couple months ago, that they said that they were looking into illegally changing the term PA from physician's assistant to physician's associate, which is like the Spanish translation, right? Asociado del doctor or asociado médico. And I mean, I just felt very bad. I just felt like the PA was going to think that I was not a good interpreter, that I was a lousy interpreter. I mean, right off the start, I already made a mistake, right? But luckily, I mean, the session went on pretty smoothly, and of course, I was able to know the right translation for PA, right? So that was that. All right, and blunder number 5. So I remember this one. I was spelling out something for a lady. I don't remember what I was spelling, and then I had to spell it for her. Now, zebra in Spanish is with a C. It's the same spelling, just instead of a Z, it's a C as in Charlie. And so I told the lady zeta de zebra, so I said Z as in zebra instead of saying C as in zebra, or C as in zebra, yeah, C de zebra. So of course, like when that came out of my mouth, I was like, oh, and that was an audio session. I remember that one. I was like, oh man, I can't believe that slipped out. And the lady's answer, like, even surprised me even more. She said, yes. So I was like, all right. Like, okay. So, I mean, yeah, it was correct, right? Zebra has a Z in English, but it doesn't have a C in Spanish. So, technically, well, no, I don't know. Kind of correct, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that just made me feel very embarrassed. And then the lady just saying yes to that, it was just like, all right, well, at least she understood what I meant. All right, no problem there. Okay, and for number 6, all right, I remember this one. We all had a laugh, and it was just so out of context. I don't know, but just the way that it was pronounced. So it was at a diabetes education class, and then they were asking the lady, like, just to mention, like, just what she would eat, right, regularly. And one of her answers was, I can't remember what else she said, but one of her answers was vino vara. Now, vino vara is literal translation for that. To me, vara means barato. You know, here in Mexico, when we say, oh, eso está vara, that's vara. That's cheap, right? So vino vara, what I interpreted it as was cheap wine. All right. Now, when I said cheap wine, the lady just looked at me and she said, no cheap wine, peanut butter. And then, or no, I don't think she said peanut butter, because she couldn't pronounce it right. She said vino vara, so she said, like, no cheap wine, vino vara. And then, like, I don't remember well, but she must have explained it, and it turns out it was peanut butter. So of course I told her cheap wine, so of course she was upset, but we all had a laugh at the end. And man, I turned like red. This was a video session, and I turned red. I remember this one. And that's like one of the ones that I'm never going to forget. I'm never gonna let that one die out. That vino vara sheep wine. I mean, like, what was I thinking, right? Like, but I don't know. I mean, every day we are just exposed to so many stuff, so much things that, I mean, anything goes, right? People just say the craziest stuff. So vino vara, cheap wine. But of course it wasn't. It was peanut butter. So, all right. Moving on to blunder number 7. So this one was an audio session. I remember this one as well. And so the doctor was looking at the patient's butt, right? So I was there interpreting for the patient's butt and stuff. So yeah, they were talking about stuff on his butt. I don't even remember what they were talking about. But all of a sudden, the doctor says, "So how long have you had that lesion on your cheek?" So I asked the patient, "Bueno, ¿cuánto tiempo ha tenido ese dolor en la nalga?" Right? Cheek, butt cheek. They're seeing the guy's butt. And then I told him that, and then the LEP must have made some kind of a weird face or something, because the doctor said, "No, I'm talking about his face." So of course I lost it, right? But what was I to think, right? They were looking at the person's butt. How was I supposed to know? Like, I had no context. I couldn't see what they were doing. So I thought they were talking about butt cheeks, but it wasn't butt cheeks. It was really the person's face. So yeah, I was embarrassed. A little bit of a blunder, but how was I supposed to know, right? All right. And number 8, this is going to be the last blunder that I'm going to share today, the last blunder that I could manage to remember. But remember, there are many more, and I'm pretty sure everyone has blunders here and then. Not daily blunders, right? But occasional blunders are okay, and they do happen occasionally to everyone, so it's okay. So this one comes from like my early interpretation days. I'm pretty sure this happened during my first 1 or 2 months. So I was there interpreting away for a session that was well, it was a financial session, like an investment session or something like that. And at that time, I was not into Forex, not into crypto, not into the stock exchange or any of that. So I didn't know all of these terms, but the lady was talking to the gentleman, and then the account that the lady had, I believe she was investing in the stock market. So because she hadn't used her account for a long time, her account was dormant. All right, so that was the term that was used. So I don't know why. I don't know what was going through my head, but it seemed logical to interpret that as a cuenta dormida, a sleeping account. So I don't know, I know, right? So I went ahead and I told the lady, bueno, pues es que usted, la cuenta no se le usó por mucho tiempo, esta cuenta está dormida. And then the lady goes, perdón, excuse me? Sí, tiene una cuenta dormida. And then she said, pues es que no entiendo eso. And of course, when she said that, I was like, there's something wrong. There's something not right here. So I looked it up, and it was not a cuenta dormida. It was a cuenta inactiva. So I tried to save the situation, and I told the lady, oh no, disculpe, también se puede conocer como cuenta inactiva. When I said that, the lady said, in perfect English, I kid you not, she told the gentleman, is it best if I speak directly to you, because I'm not understanding the interpreter? So, of course, the world just fell apart on me, and I felt like the worst interpreter in the world. And then the gentleman's answer was like, all right, interpreter, it looks like we will no longer be needing your services. So click. And I was like, I was devastated. I was like, man, that sucked. But it only happened that one time, right? So yeah, that was like my like that was like probably one of my very first blunders that had happened, and another one that I will never forget. So I'm sorry I couldn't make the 10 top blunders, and I'll probably be making some more blunder videos in the future, because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be more. I'll probably be like no, but I'll be mentioning the blunders in my future online session, so you'll get to hear about other blunders. So that is going to be pretty much it for me today. Please leave your questions in the comments and I will answer some of them on the next session. Remember that if anything is time sensitive, just let me know and I'll be sure to get to that video before I do another one. Remember that I'll be here every Monday through Friday after work, and also remember that we are still trying to get the CCHI video to 100 likes. I'll post a link in the description. Let's get that video to 100 likes. Let's get those exclusive links to the MIP22 to those 2 winners that really deserve our feedback. Let's do it. Let's get it, guys. Is it gonna be you? I don't know. I hope it is. So let's get to it. Also remember that we have a Patreon page where with as little as just $1 of your support, you help motivate us to create much more content, and we give you access to all of the medical practice videos, ad-free scripts to those videos, answer sheets to those videos, vocabulary list, and much more content. And most importantly, you will forever win a place inside of our heart. We love all of our Patreons. We love everyone that has bought us a coffee. We love all of our subscribers, and of course we love you that is watching the end of this video. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so for much more content, and don't forget to share.